Hi everyone, my name is Corey Orthman. We are doing Imagination with Words today. This course is available on heronbooks.com. We're not going to be doing the entire course today, but we're going to be doing a good chunk of it. I wanted to show you what the book looks like. It's a blue book. You can find this in the language arts section of the courses. It also has a learning guide that looks like this. And we're gonna jump right into it. So I wanted to first talk about the purpose for this course. This is a course that can help you with your reading and with your writing. A lot of my students during the school year, when they're reading, they usually don't have a lot of trouble with plain writing, writing that's like pretty straightforward and simple. But when the authors start getting really creative and using more imaginative writing, it can give students trouble. So we're going to talk today about how that imaginative writing works, why writers do that, how you can work on understanding what they're trying to say, and then you can also use that in your own writing so that when you're doing your own essays or stories, you can get better at using imaginative writing yourself. So you don't have to download anything today. I'm going to be showing you the textbook on screen and reading some sections from it. And I'll be showing you the learning guide also. If you want to go pick up this course, you can go do that. And then you can do the entire thing yourself. But we're just going to do the first part. And there will be a few times when I'm going to ask you to go run and do things. I'm also going to ask you to type some answers into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Don't type anything into the chat section or those other sections. We're finding that the Q&A box works a lot better for giving us your responses. Okay, so imagination with words. The first thing we're going to do is read chapter 1, What Writers Do. Writers like to tell us things. They like to tell us how to do things. They like to tell us what things look like, how they feel, how they smell, what color they are. They like to tell us about places. Are they beautiful or ugly? Do they seem scary or safe? They like to tell us about people. What do they look like? Are they grumpy? Are they friendly? Are they happy or sad? Do they look like they just got out of bed? Writers do a lot of describing. You have done a lot of this in your own writing. So you may have learned that a writer can describe things in different ways. He or she can use writing that is plain or writing that is more imaginative. Here, for example, is a plain sentence. The red, white, and blue kite went up into the sky. Here's a sentence that says this in a more imaginative way. The red, white, and blue kite sailed up, then hung in the sky like a bright American flag. This helps you use your imagination to picture the kite. This book and this course is about both kinds of writing. Most especially, it is about the imaginative kind. Knowing about imaginative writing can be useful to you as a writer and also as a reader. You can learn how to describe things in imaginative ways, and you can enjoy the imaginative writing others have created for you to read. All right, so the first activity we're going to do. Oh, I'm sorry, we have one more thing we're going to read right after this. And this is called Plain Writing for Information. And then we're going to do our first activity. All right, so plain writing for information. First, let's talk a little about plain writing. Sometimes we read because we want information. We might want to know where something is, how it works, or how to do something. Actually, we read this kind of writing a lot. The directions for a workbook page, for example, tell you how to do it. A pudding recipe tells you the exact steps for making a yummy dessert. A spelling rule tells you how to spell a certain kind of word. Sometimes this kind of writing gives us facts. A book about mammals might say this. Mammals have hair or fur. They don't lay eggs. They give birth to live babies, and mothers feed their babies milk. This tells you facts, things that are true. Directions and facts must be easy to understand, so this kind of writing is perfect for that because it's simple and clear. It tells you exactly what you want to know. There's nothing fancy about it. Here's an example from the book Air. That's one of the other courses we've actually been doing this week, by the way. Wind is moving air. Wind can bend trees. Wind can make flags fly. Sailboats move because of wind. Wind helps kites fly. See how plain and simple the writing is and how easy it is to get the idea? Here's another example from An Octopus is Amazing. Every octopus lives alone. Its den is small, just big enough to hold the octopus. An octopus can squeeze into a small space because it has no backbone. In fact, it has no bones at all. In both of these, the plain, clear writing makes the information easy to understand. All right, so going over to our learning guide, the first activity says, pick an easy nonfiction book. Inside, find 3 short paragraphs of plain writing that give information. So at home, I want you to run over, find a bookshelf, find a nonfiction book. That would be not a storybook, not a novel or like a fun book, but something more like a, if you have an encyclopedia still at home, we don't have a lot of those at home anymore. If you have a cookbook, or you can even use something like a newspaper for this step. It doesn't have to be a nonfiction book exactly, but I want you to run around, find some nonfiction writing that has plain writing in it. So find that, and when you've done that, go ahead and write into the Q&A box what you found. I'll give you just a couple minutes to do that. All right, so we have some answers coming in, so I'm going to read some of these. All right. Hey, Gayathri is back. Hi. I saw you in some of our other webinars. Beverly says, a math book. Awesome. I see Jordan again. Hi, Jordan. Viola says, so this sounds like something she read in a book. Billions of years ago, a great cloud of gas and dust formed in the universe. This cloud became denser and denser. Then about 4.5 billion years ago, the dense cloud became a planet. Awesome. That's probably Earth. Natalie found a book about gluten-free bread baking. Awesome. Saravia found what is, oh, she's asked, Saravia is asking, what is plain writing? I was late, sorry. Plain writing, what we're talking about is, we're gonna be talking in just a little bit about imaginative writing. But what we're saying right now is, first, we're just kind of going over examples of plain writing, which is writing that doesn't have any kind of imaginative qualities about it. It's just really straightforward. It just describes things exactly the way they are. It deals with facts and doesn't really get into anything that requires your imagination to think about. So we're looking for some examples of imaginative writing around our house, maybe in a nonfiction book, maybe in a cookbook or a newspaper. All right, Veronica found the New Yorker magazine. Yeah, that's a really popular magazine that has a lot of plain writing in it. Let's see, Viola also found something about pronunciation. Awesome. Alette is back. Hi, Alette. She found future astronauts need to study hard at school and go to college. Awesome. Gayatri found a book about Sacagawea and one about Anne Frank. That's awesome. Saravia found a science book. Awesome. Finn found jellyfish are common here. Comb jellies are a family of soft-bodied, transparent animals distantly related to jellyfish, and they're also plentiful. That's awesome. Jeremiah found a smoothie recipe book. Great. I'm going to read just a few more answers here. So Mina found Little House in the Big Woods. Now that's a fiction book, but it does have, I remember from when I read it, it has a mixture of it. Definitely has plain writing in it, and it also has some more imaginative writing. So that's a good choice too. Ranbir says, sharks have powerful jaws and double rows of razor sharp teeth. When the outer row wears out or breaks, the inner row moves forward to replace them. That's awesome, thank you. Another attendee says, corals may look like plants, but they contain many tiny animals called polyps. Very cool, thank you. All right, we have a lot of participants today, and you guys are already making a lot of answers. So I'm gonna move on to the next part, but I just want you guys to know that I saw all your answers, and thank you for sharing those. Okay, so the next section that we're going to go over is called plain writing that describes things. All right, so in this next section, it says, when they're writing, writers often describe things. They give you a clear picture of something by saying exactly how it is. A writer might describe a tree like this. It's tall, with lots of curvy branches and big purplish leaves. Here's an example from the book Tornado. The storm cellar was dim and cool. It smelled of potatoes and pickles. My mother kept sacks of root vegetables here, along with boxes of eggs and jars of tomatoes. By the way, if you don't know what a storm cellar is, that's in the middle part of the country where they get a lot of tornadoes and other serious storms. Families would often have a basement or cellar area that they could go down there and basically hide out while a tornado is coming so their family would be safe. But people would often store food and other things down there that they needed to keep cool, and it could kind of be almost like a refrigerator before refrigerators were invented. So it says that there are sacks of root vegetables down there, and there's also boxes of eggs and jars of tomatoes. It tells you clearly and exactly what the cellar is like and what's there. Can't you kind of feel the dark, cool cellar, smell the potatoes, and see the boxes of eggs? Here's another example from the book, Look at Lucy. Lucy wasn't the kind of dog who liked to sit. She was the kind of dog who liked to run and jump. She liked to run so much that a few weeks ago, she had run away. The simple, clear writing makes it easy to get a good picture of Lucy in your mind, and you know just what she is like. All right, so now for our next activity, think of something or place that you like. Give a clear picture of it by describing it in about 3 sentences of plain writing. So I want you to open up the Q&A box again and think of some place or something that you like. This could be an object, or maybe an area of your house, or maybe a place that you like to visit. And I want you to describe it in the most plain writing you can. Just try to describe exactly what it's like and don't use any imaginative writing at all. I'll give you just a couple minutes to do that. All right, so we have some answers coming in here. So I'm going to read some of these. Dave says, my house. That's awesome. That's about as plain as we can get. Chennai says, there is a mountain in our backyard. It is tall. Good job. Alette says, my room is messy. It is also cozy. I like it. I like that. It's almost poetic in its plainness. It's really nice. Natalie says, Colorado is fun. It is also hot and has a lot of rocks. There are a lot of mountains. Very nice. Milo says, the church is big. It's a triangle. My friends go there. Awesome. Thank you, Milo. Viola says, Trader Joe's is one of the most freshest markets in the world. Most of their food is fairly organic and contains rich nutrients that remain delightful to eat. They also make their own food, knowing that they use those rich nutrients to make their food. Awesome. Good job, Viola. Gayatri says, I like Shoshone. That is where Sacagawea lived, and there are very beautiful mountains there. Awesome. Thank you. Another participant says, mac and cheese is usually made with cheddar or white cheddar. The texture is stringy and sometimes sticky as well. Out of public opinion, mac and cheese is the pinnacle of the food industry. Awesome. Adeline says, I love fresh cold, but not too cold purple, blue tasting huckleberries. Awesome. Ethan says, my tablet is cool. It has games. You guys are doing great with the plain writing. Good job. Another attendee says, I would like to visit New York City. Violet says, I like my local library. It's very nice. There are lots of books, of course, and there's fiction books, nonfiction books, history, magazines, etc. Emmett says, my rock is round. Good job, guys. Ranbir says, my room is medium-sized. It has a bed, a closet, and a shelf. All right, I'm going to read one more. There's lots more answers here, but again, there's a lot of you guys in the class today, so I can't read everybody's, but I want you to know I do see them, and you guys are doing a great job. Our last answer here, Beverly says, my jewelry collection is stored in a compartment located behind a 3/4 length mirror. The compartment has shelves, hooks, and bars that I can use to hold my earrings, bracelets, and necklaces. It is perfect for organizing all my items, and I can see exactly what I have to choose from. That was a great job, Beverly. Very good punctuation, too. All right, we're going to move on to the next part here. And that is Chapter 4, Another Way to Describe Things. All right, so sometimes a writer likes to describe things in a more imaginative way. Here's an example from the book More Stories Julian Tells. The bridge was long and silver and sparkled in the sun. It was so big that it looked like giants must have made it, that human beings never could have. Instead of simply saying, the bridge was huge, the writer has come up with an interesting, imaginative way to describe it. It's fun to use your imagination to picture a bridge so big it looks like giants built it. Look at this from the stories Julian tells. My father is a big man with wild black hair, and when he laughs, the sun laughs in the window panes. In other words, when Julian's dad laughs, everything is brighter, as though the sun is laughing too. Writing like this gives a lively picture. It's creative. It's fun for a writer to write and a reader to read. All right, so the next activity, after reading that part, I'm sorry, I brought up the wrong one here. Okay, so Using the same thing or place you described in the last activity, now think of how you could describe it in a more imaginative way and write it down. So we're going to take the same thing that we were just writing about, whether that was your jewelry cabinet, the mountain in your backyard, the Trader Joe's store, and you're going to try to think of another way to describe it. Like in those selections from those books, in one of them, the character was trying to describe how big the bridge was. So instead of just saying it's really big, he said, it looks so big that giants must have built it and placed it there. In the next selection, it said, instead of just saying it was like a bright sunny day, it was saying that the sun was laughing in the window. So think of the thing you wrote about before and how could we write about it with some imagination? Think of it could just be one sentence or a few sentences, but go ahead and write that in the Q&A box. All right, I'm gonna start reading some of these answers. I just had a laugh there. Some of these are really fun, guys. Here we go. Mac and cheese, the golden food that is such a delight to the taste buds that the gods could have only made it. I agree. I love mac and cheese too. Emmett says, my rock is smooth and bumpy. It had dirt that looked like it was pulled out of a cartoon. Great. Violet says, when I rode my bike by myself for the first time, I was as happy as a clam. I've heard that expression before, but I have to admit, I've always wondered how we know that clams are happy or not, right? Saravia says, my TV is so large, it feels like you are in the movie. That's awesome. Alette says, when it is midday and the window is open, the sun shines down onto my bed like a rainbow. That's wonderful. Mina says, when I think of California, I think happiness is going on a stroll. That's a nice image. Thank you. Viola says, Trader Joe's is one of the most freshest markets in the world. Most of their food is so organic and fresh that they shine like diamonds in the open sky. That's great. Adeline says, huckleberries are bright blue with a splash of purple, like if purple water splashed it. Huckleberries also taste like they were made for a king. That's awesome. Veronica says, my living room had paintings that looked like they were looking at you, with wood paneling on the wall towering over you. Good job. That has two in the same paragraph. Sarika says, I would really love to visit the wonderful New York City. I want to see the beautiful Statue of Liberty. Awesome. Ethan says, my tablet is not very big, but it is big in the inside. It's the size that it would fit my baby sister. That would have to be a pretty big tablet to fit a baby. All right, good job, guys. All right, moving on to the next section. The next section, we're going to read chapters 5 and 6 before we do our next activity. Okay. More about imaginative writing. As you can see, when we talk about imaginative writing, we don't just mean that the writer imagined stories or the people in them, or that he or she thought up a bunch of wild things to write about. Of course, that would be writing with imagination. But here we are talking about putting words together in imaginative ways to describe what something looks, feels, or even smells, tastes, or sounds like. In the stories Julian tells, Julian and his brother Huey take bite after bite of the fresh lemon pudding their father has made, especially for their mother. What does it look like after that? According to Julian, it looked like craters on the moon. That's an imaginative and interesting way to describe it. Later, Julian and Huey's father finds them hiding from him under the bed. There was his face and his eyes like black lightning. What picture do you get in your mind of Julian's dad? I can imagine. Here's an example from a book called The Adventures of Buster Bear. Buster Bear listened to a merry, low, silvery laugh that never stopped but went on and on until he just felt as if he must laugh too. It was the voice of the laughing brook. A brook, by the way, is like a creek or like a small stream of water. Isn't this a lively, playful way to describe a bubbling brook? Maybe you could think of another imaginative way to describe it yourself. Chapter 6, Why Writers Use Imaginative Writing. If you wanted to describe a nice spring day, you could do it plainly. You might name the color of the sky, say what flowers are there, explain how hot or cold it is, tell about the smell of the air, and so on. For example, it's a lovely spring day. The sky is blue, the daffodils are yellow, the air is warm, and everything smells clean and fresh. That gives you a good idea of that day. But you could also describe it imaginatively. You might say, the spring day is so beautiful, it makes even grumpy old men want to jump for joy. Imaginative writing makes stories livelier and more interesting. As writers, we get to create interesting, lively pictures for readers. As readers, we get to use our own imaginations to really see and feel what is going on in a story. When a writer is very good at writing imaginatively, a story can become so real that we almost feel like it is happening to us. I bet some of you guys can think of books where that was the case. All right, so for our next activity, think of a lively, imaginative way to describe each of these and write it down. I think for our purposes today, you can pick one that you really want to write about. So the list is feeling cheerful, scribbles on a piece of paper, the smell of broccoli, a baby mouse, the sound of rain, an angry boy, the taste of ice cream in the summer, the feel of cat fur, or someone laughing at a joke. So pick one of those out of the list and write about it in the Q&A box. But don't write it in a plain way. You don't want to say, the angry boy's face was red as he yelled. You want to try to think of a really imaginative way to describe that. Like you could say, the boy was so mad, his face looked like a tomato. But come up with your own, of course. All right, so pick one of those and write it in the Q&A box. I'm going to leave this up on the screen for just another minute here so you can see all of the choices here of what you can write about. Okay, so there's some great answers coming in here. I'm going to read some of these. Actually, I see a question here in the Q&A box. I'm going to go ahead and answer that really quick. This question says, what is the solid definition of imaginative writing? I think if by solid, if you're saying like, what's the exact definition? Well, I would just say that imaginative writing is any writing where it's not just plain and straightforward, like we talked about at the beginning, where, let's say if I was describing this coffee cup, this is our school coffee cup here. That's what our school looks like. If I was trying to describe it as plainly as possible, I might say the colors that it is, sort of white on the outside, green on the inside. It has a picture of our school. There's a little dragon on it. That's our mascot. This is just plain writing. Imaginative writing, I'm trying to think of ways that I can compare it to other things or ways that I describe it. That's kind of using my imagination where I'm not saying exactly what it is in real life, but more of maybe how it makes me feel or other things that it makes me think of. Like, this is a heavy coffee cup. So if I said my coffee cup was as heavy as my baby son, it's not really, it's kind of an exaggeration, but I'm trying to give you a way to understand that it's pretty heavy. So I hope that helps. But if you'd like more, just let me know in the Q&A box. All right, so here are some of your imaginative writing descriptions of the things in that list. Finn says, one of our Aussies, pretty sure that's a type of dog, one of our Aussies has fur like charcoal floating on a clear blue sea. That's awesome, good job. Violet says, I touched my cat's fur and it felt like a living cloud. Oh, I love that, that's great. Annette says, a baby mouse is as cute as a kitten's first glance. Oh, that's great. Beverly says, my cat's fur is so soft, it is as if she was born wearing a velvet robe. You guys are really good at this, good job. I also see that that you're all animal lovers, like I am too. So this is great. Milo says, the taste of ice cream in the summer is fit for a king. Awesome. Another participant says, the sound of rain sounds like a very light cat or cats walking around outside. They are enjoying the water for the first time. That's great. Emmett says, the angry boy was so mad I thought he might explode. His face was as red as if his face was going to turn inside out. That's a great description. I can really picture that in my mind. Alette says, when I rub my hands and face into my cat's fur, it feels like I am rubbing them into the softest silk, like a king's bed. Good job. Adeline says, the rain sounds like thunder or the crashing waves of the ocean when the rain is coming down hard. When the rain isn't coming down hard, it sounds like water drops on leaves dropping down and little rivers splashing about. Oh, that's wonderful. Another attendee says, the sound of rain is like many people are snapping their fingers and singing the sound of rain. Makes me think of like a choir or like a music group. That's great. Sravia says, the taste of ice cream in the summer was like eating out of the magic food of the gods. I can tell that you like ice cream as much as I do. Ethan says, the boy laughed so hard, it looked like he was a human tornado. Very good job. All right. So there's a lot more really good answers, and I'm reading all of them. You guys are doing a great job. We don't have time to read all of them right now, and I'm going to have to move on to the next one, but really well done, guys. All right, so the next section is called, the section overall is Reading Imaginative Writing, and we're going to read Chapter 7, down to what you can do. All right, so chapter 7, understanding imaginative writing. As you read, you will come across sentences that are written with a lot of imagination. The main thing you need to know about these is that you can't always read them the way you read plain writing. That is giving you information. Sometimes you need to use your own imagination to get what is meant. In imaginative writing, words are not just put together with all of their plain, ordinary meanings. Instead, the writer puts them together in an imaginative way to describe something that has happened or what something feels like, looks like, or sounds like. The writer chooses his or her words so that when you read them using your own imagination, you can get a picture of what happened or feel the feeling yourself. Okay, so really quick, this next activity, it says read each of these and see what picture you get from it. So I'm just going to read these out loud, and I want you can even close your eyes if you want to really try to get this picture in your mind. Here's the first one. When I forgot my lines in the play, I felt as small as a bug. Do you get a picture from that? I've been in plays myself, and I know exactly what that writer is talking about. The next one. Leaves danced in the wind. So the writer could have just said that they're moving in the wind, but they're describing it as that they're dancing. That can really give us a picture in our minds. The moon floated above us, pouring silvery light on the world. I really like that image. That's pouring silvery light down. You can almost get the image that the moon has like a big picture of light that's pouring it out. It's pretty fun. She looked like she had just bit into a very sour apple. Now, I think this one is a good example. I actually want to pause there for just a second, because sometimes when you're reading something like that, if you're going too quickly or you're not really paying attention, you might think as the reader that it said the person bit into a sour apple. You're like, okay, but that's actually not what the writer said there. It said that this person, she looked like she had just bit into a very sour apple. So I don't think she's eating anything right now, but you can imagine that she looks, for some reason her face is very sour, maybe she's angry. So you can imagine what she would look like if she did bite into a sour apple. And the last sentence here, the wind roared through the trees, tossing branches into the air. So the wind isn't really alive. It's kind of a force of nature, but it's saying that it roared and that it tossed branches. Two things that only like a person could do, not really something in nature, but it definitely gives us a good picture. All right, so we're almost out of time, but I wanted to give you guys one thing that you can do at home. This next activity says, below are listed some things that could be described imaginatively. Choose 3 of these. Actually, if you're at, since you might not have this learning guide at home already, I would, if I were you, grab a piece of paper and a pencil or pen and maybe write a few of these down really quick. So it says, choose 3 of these and write them down. Think of an imaginative way to describe each one and write it down. Have 2 people, that could be your parents or brothers or sisters, have 2 people read what you've written and tell you the picture or feeling they get from each one. So here's a list. Your bed, tree branches moving in the wind, riding a bike very fast, getting hit by a big wave, feeling excited, the sound of a fire, the taste of a fresh strawberry, the feel of a hot, stuffy room. So pick 3 of those, write them down, and think of a really imaginative way that you could describe that. Not plain writing, but writing that will really make somebody have a really fun, fresh picture in their head. So write those down and have 2 people read them. And tomorrow we're going to be doing another seminar on imaginative writing. You can encourage other people to watch if they want to. You won't have to have done this one to do that one tomorrow, but I would love to hear your answers to this activity tomorrow at the beginning if you want to come back tomorrow. And we're going to be getting into a little bit more of some specific types of imaginative writing. In the Q&A box earlier, I saw somebody that I think knows the subject a little bit. They started like writing the names of some of the different types of imaginative writing. It's a good job. You know what we're going to go into next. But I wanted to talk about some of the different types of imaginative writing that you can work with, because that will help you spot it when you're reading books, and it will also help you use those as tools when you're doing your own writing. So there's at least 4 different types of imaginative writing that we're going to cover. So I hope you've had time to write a couple of these things down here that you're going to be writing imaginatively. I'll leave it up for just another few seconds here to give you time to do that. But I've had a lot of fun working with you guys on imaginative writing today. I hope you've had some fun doing that too. And I'd love to see everybody back tomorrow so that we can go over even more. So thank you guys for being here today, and hopefully I'll see you all tomorrow.